The alarm screamed through the spaceport outpost like angry ghosts. Red lights flashed, shadows danced, and panic rolled across the halls like smoke. Soldiers in dark armor stormed the corridor, shouting orders in languages the human couldn't understand. Captain Reese Hunter ducked into a side alcove, gripping his plasma rifle tightly. He hadn't signed up for this. He was supposed to be escorting diplomats guard duty, nothing more. But then the explosion started. The war, long avoided, had arrived in a single unexpected strike. Behind him, more footsteps. Not boots bare. Feet, quick light. Reese spun, weapon ready, and stopped. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't even armed. She was alien tall, slender, skin the color of pale firelight, and her long silver hair clung to her damp body. She wore nothing but a translucent sheet that barely covered her. Her large eyes, a deep violet, were wide with fear. She gasped when she saw him. You're human? She whispered double quotes, yes, Reese said, keeping his voice low. I'm not here to hurt you. She blinked rapidly. But you saw me. You? Saw me, without clothes. I didn't mean to, Reese said quickly. I was just running from the attack. I didn't know this chamber was. She stepped closer, trembling. No, you don't understand. You saw me. Now. You have to marry me. Reese stared at her. Excuse me? If you don't, she whispered, glancing toward the door, they'll kill us both. You violated the right of sacred privacy. My people will see it as a claim. I didn't claim anything, Reese hissed. They won't care. I'm a noble daughter of the Solari. Our traditions are old. If a male sees a female in the sacred chamber without consent, he either marries her or dies, and so does she. Reese's mind reeled. Bombs were still shaking the walls. Screams in the background. He glanced toward the hallway again. If they stayed, soldiers would find them. But if they ran, I can get us out of here, he said. But you'll have to move. She looked down at her near-naked body. Not like this. I can't go outside in this. It would be shameful. More shameful than dying? She hesitated, then nodded and followed. They ran together down the back corridor, weaving through smoke, debris, and broken lights. Reese kept his weapon aimed ahead, checking each corner before moving. She stayed close behind, silent and graceful. Her bare feet never made a sound on the metal floor. As they reached the docking bay, Reese's wristband blinked. His ship, the Sparrow, was still active, locked and hidden behind crates. Come on, he said. We're almost out. Before they could reach it, a group of armored guards stepped into their path. Solari soldiers. Their armor gleamed with pearl-white plates, and their long staffs crackled with energy. One of them, clearly a leader, saw the girl and pointed. Princess Asari? What are you doing with a human? The girl Asari lifted her chin. He is my mate now. By sacred law, he has seen me. He has claimed me. Reese's mouth opened, but no words came out. The soldiers went stiff. Is this true? The leader asked, glaring at Reese. Reese nodded slowly. Yes, I didn't mean to. But it happened. I take responsibility. There was a long silence. Then the leader lowered his staff. So be it. The old laws must be respected. Even now. But you must leave. The council will not accept this union. The war has started. It would be dangerous for both of you to remain. Where? Leaving, Reese said. The soldiers stepped aside. One of them gave a small, respectful bow to Asari. May the stars bless your new bond. They reached the ship. Reese unlocked the hatch, and Asari climbed inside. As soon as the door closed, behind them, Reese exhaled hard. What the hell just happened? He muttered. She looked at him, expression unreadable. You saved my life. Reese powered the engines, heart still racing. I wasn't trying to. I was just doing my job. You are my husband now, she said softly, even if it was by accident. Reese looked at her, blinking. And what if I say I don't want to be? She paused. Then they'll hunt us. You'll be a criminal. I'll be considered shamed. They may even put a bounty on you, and if they catch us, they'll execute us both. He groaned and leaned back in his chair. Fantastic, she tilted her head. But if you agree to stay, at least for now, I can help you. I'm not just anyone. I'm the daughter of the Solari High Matron. And I know things your human leaders want to know. Like, what? She leaned forward, eyes glowing. Like who really started this war? Reese stared at her. A storm raged behind her beautiful eyes. Maybe this wasn't just a mistake. Maybe it was fate. Asterisk. The ship glided through the black of space like a silent ghost. Behind them, the planet Solora burned with chaos explosions blooming over cities, warships rising from the surface, and the night filled with lights that weren't stars. Reese sat at the control panel, eyes fixed on the radar. He hadn't slept. His hands were steady, but his thoughts were wild. He wasn't supposed to be in this deep. He was supposed to protect dignitaries, not accidentally marry an alien princess during the outbreak of a planetary war. Asari sat behind him, wrapped now in a simple cloak he had found in the ship's supply locker. Her silver hair had dried, and she watched him quietly with those strange, soft eyes. You haven't spoken in hours, she said gently. I'm trying to think, Reese answered, his voice low. How to survive, where to land, how to explain. All this without sounding like I've lost my mind. She walked closer and sat across from him. I know it seems impossible, but if you let me, I can help. You said you know who started the war. I'd like to hear it. Asari nodded. There is a group inside the Solari government. They are called the Pale Flame. They believe the ancient laws should rule us again. They see your kind humans as a disease. I learned they were planning to use my ceremonial unsealing as the signal to launch a surprise strike. Unsealing? He asked. A rite where noble daughters are purified in the chamber of still water, she explained. We wear no clothes, no protections. We are symbolically reborn. They knew that moment would draw attention. And when the chamber opened and you walked in, they saw it as a sign? Reese asked. They twisted it. They claimed a human corrupted the sacred rites, that you violated our laws, that it was proof of what they've warned against. Too much trust in outsiders. Reese rubbed his face. So me stumbling into the wrong room became their excuse. Yes, and now they have control of the palace. My mother is missing. The council chambers are sealed. I don't know who survived. Reese leaned back in the chair. And now you're here. With me. Married by accident. She smiled faintly. Not all accidents are bad. He stared at her for a moment. You're oddly calm. I've been trained to keep calm. And I trust you more than anyone left on that planet. Why? Because you didn't look at me like I was a trophy, she said. You looked away. You tried to protect me, even after seeing everything. Reese shifted in his seat. I didn't mean to see anything. I just reacted. And that's why I trust you. The radar pinged. A ship Solari signature. Fast. Headed toward them. Reese's fingers danced across the controls. They found us? Can you outfly them? Not in this thing, Reese muttered. It's a scout ship, not a fighter. She stood quickly. Then you need help. Asari walked to the back compartment and pulled open a panel hidden in the wall. Inside were crystals Solari tech used for short-burst jump drives. Reese's eyes widened. How do you know about those? I helped design the Royal Escape Pods. This ship was modified secretly for my family, in case we ever had to flee. Reese grabbed the nearest crystal and locked it into place. The enemy ship appeared behind them, sleek, silver, dangerous. Its weapons powered up. Reese flipped the switch. The ship vanished into a tunnel of light. When they reappeared, stars had shifted. They were now in deep orbit around a cold, uninhabited moon. The systems flickered. The crystal was burnt out, smoking. But they had escaped. Asari smiled. Reese let out a breath. That was insane. You're welcome, she said softly. For the first time since the chaos began, Reese laughed just once. You're something else. She walked over and sat beside him. And now that we're safe, we need a plan. Yeah, a plan, Reese said. You said you can prove who started the war, the Pale Flame. I have files, names, their hidden codes. They're on my crest, it's sealed in my neural ring, but it needs a secure decrypt port. Earth has one, Reese said. At the Mars Embassy. We could... No, she interrupted. Earth will send you to military command. They'll question me for hours. They may lock me up. Or worse, they'll use me as a tool. You don't trust my people? I trust you. Reese stared at her, uncertain. So what do we do? Asari touched his arm. We find the people who still believe in peace. There are others. My cousin, for one. Maybe even allies in your own ranks. But we do it on our own terms. Reese looked at her hand resting on his dot. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about truth. And maybe something more. Something neither of them expected. The cold moon beneath them offered no sound, no movement, only silence and a soft glow from its icy surface. The sparrow sat camouflaged in the shadows of a rocky ridge. Reese paced inside the small ship, staring at a blinking light on the console. They had power, but not much. Fuel was limited. Weapons, even more so. Asari sat with her eyes closed, fingers pressed to her temple, silently activating her neural ring. Her breathing slowed as streams of faint blue light pulsed around the crystal band circling her head. Reese glanced back. You okay? She opened her eyes slowly. I'm trying to locate a safe contact, my cousin Fallon. If he's alive, he'll help us. Reese nodded, but tension grew in his chest. And if he's not, then we keep running, she said. But not forever. I will not let the Pale Flame destroy both our worlds. Reese pulled up a map of the quadrant. There's an outpost neutral zone. Trading station called Varney's 12. Maybe we can reach it. They don't ask questions, and they have encrypted ports. Asari tilted her head. Do you trust them? No, Reese said. But I trust that they like credits more than politics. If you need a place to decrypt your crest safely, that's our best shot. Her expression darkened. We have to go before they find us again. I know. The ship lifted slowly, carefully avoiding any energy surges that might alert trackers. They glided away from the moon like a drifting shadow. For a while, there was only the hum of the ship and the soft blinking of instruments. Then Asari broke the silence. When you saw me in the sacred chamber, she said softly, what did you think? Reese looked over, unsure if it was a trap or just curiosity. I thought, he answered, you looked scared, vulnerable. You weren't expecting anyone to be there. I wasn't supposed to be there either. But I also thought you looked strong, even then. Asari's lips pressed together, and she looked away. I wasn't strong. I was terrified. The unsealing was meant to make me feel powerful, like I was stepping into adulthood. But instead, I felt like a piece of furniture, decorated, displayed. You didn't look like that to me. She gave him a small smile. Varnus 12 drifted into view, floating like a rusted crab in the dark. The station spun slowly, lights flickering across its cracked surface. Ships came and went through a central tunnel, escorted by armed drones. Let me do the talking. Reese said as he brought the ship into approach sequence. "You're technically my wife, remember? I'd rather not start a riot in the docking." "Bae," Asari rolled her eyes. "Just don't sell me for fuel." The docking clamps engaged with the clunk, and the ship lowered into a hidden port. Reese grabbed his sidearm and a small pack. Asari wrapped herself in a cloak, pulling the hood low over her face. The inside of Varney's 12 was loud, grimy, and smelled like metal, oil, and alien sweat. Vendors shouted in 5 different languages. Drunken miners shoved each other. Mercenaries leaned against the walls, eyeing everyone. Reese led the way to a dark tech vendor tucked behind a broken coolant vent. The woman behind the counter was human, with half her face replaced by cybernetics. She looked up and sneered. "Well, if it had... Isn't Captain Reese Hunter? I figured you were dead." "Nice to see you too, Cora," he replied. "I need a clean decrypt line." "No logs." "Depends," she said, eyeing Asari. "Who's the royal?" "No one," Asari said coldly. "Just a passenger," Cora smirked. "Passenger, huh? Expensive taste." Reese put a small stack of encrypted chips on the counter. "Will this buy silence?" Cora snatched them up and nodded to the back room. 10 minutes. No more. The station's not as quiet as it used to be. Inside the dim room, Asari sat at the terminal. Her crest glowed as the decryption process began. Lines of ancient Solari code filled the screen. "This is it," she whispered. "Proof. Members of the Pale Flame, their accounts, their orders, everything." Reese leaned in. "Can you copy it?" "Yes, but we can't transmit it here. The signal would be traced. We need to hand-deliver it." A loud boom echoed outside. Reese cursed. Too late. The walls shook. Cora burst in. "You brought company, Hunter." Solari bounty ships just dropped out of orbit. "They're here for her." Reese pulled his gun. "Can you stall them? I can blow up the front door." "That'll buy you 30 seconds. Reese grabbed Asari's hand. "We run, now." They sprinted through the back, alarms already blaring across the station. Armed aliens turned toward the commotion. Reese shoved crates aside, leading them to a lower emergency port. Blaster shots flew past them. Asari ducked and rolled, gripping the data crystal tight. Reese fired twice behind them, taking out one of the bounty hunters. They reached the side hatch. The Sparrow was already unlocking Dot as they climbed in and took off. Reese didn't look back. The war wasn't just about borders anymore. Now it was personal. Asterisk. The Sparrow burst through the station's traffic field, engines whining under stress. Reese slammed the throttle forward, dodging through slow-moving cargo haulers and fleeing civilian ships. Behind them, 3 sleek Solari bounty cruisers gave chase, firing pulses of violet plasma that streaked past their hull. "We won't last." Long in open space, Reese shouted over the alarms. Asari sat beside him, gripping the seat with one hand, the crystal drive clenched tightly in the other. "Jump again." "We only have one short jump core left and it's unstable," he replied. "We use it now and we may blow the ship in half." "Then point us somewhere no one dares follow," Asari said. "I trust your madness more than their aim." Reese blinked, glanced at the chart, and jabbed a command. The Sparrow spun hard and disappeared in a burst of folded starlight. They reappeared seconds later inside a deep cloud of drifting metal and abandoned battle graveyard filled with wrecked ships from the old galactic wars. The signal distortion and debris field would scramble sensors for hours. Reese turned off all systems and let the ship drift, hiding between 2 twisted dreadnoughts. Lights dimmed. Silence returned. Only the sound of his own breath filled the cockpit. "We made it," he said softly. Barely. ASAR. I removed her cloak and leaned against the bulkhead, exhausted. Her face glistened with sweat, her eyes half-lidded with strain. "I've never run like that before." "You held your own," Reese said. "You didn't panic. I had no choice. If they caught us, they'd erase everything we know. My people would never believe the truth." Reese walked over and sat across from her. "Tell me something. Why does your people's law punish you for being seen?" Asari looked up slowly, her voice softer. "Long ago, Solari women were worshipped as divine beings. We were seen as living vessels of knowledge, mystery, and purity. Over time, that belief twisted. They stopped seeing us as leaders and started guarding us like treasures, untouchable, unseen. So being exposed." Reese began. Is seen as a complete loss of sacred honor. But that's just the surface. The law is used to control. U.S. to keep us silent. He studied her. "You don't seem like someone who enjoys being silent." She gave him a tired smile. "I wasn't supposed to be a princess. I was supposed to be a scientist, a builder. But my birthright changed that." Reese nodded. "And now you're on the run with a sarcastic human who stumbled into a sacred pool like a drunk tourist." Asari chuckled. "I've had worse first. Dates." They sat in silence for a while. Then Reese spoke again. "I've seen war before. Fought in the orbital siege over Urek. Helped rescue civilians during the Andara uprising. But this? Running, hiding, knowing you're hunted by your own kind? This is different. It's not just about me anymore," she said. "It's about truth and survival, and maybe," she hesitated, "maybe something more." Reese looked at her carefully. "You mean the marriage thing?" She held his gaze. "You don't have to pretend it's not real. I know you didn't want it. I know it was forced on you. But Solari law recognizes it now. If we part ways, I'll be labeled dishonored. You'll be seen as a deserter of the bond. They'll use it as more fuel to fire this war." He sighed and leaned forward. "I didn't ask to be anyone's husband. But I won't abandon you. I don't abandon anyone." Asari's eyes softened. "That's more than I expected. Thank you." A warning light blinked on the panel. They both turned, a signal, not hostile, encrypted. Reese moved over and scanned. It's coming from inside this graveyard. Low power, old tech, masked. Could be a trap?" Asari stood. "Or it could be Thalon." Reese looked at her. "Your cousin?" She nodded. "He was trained by the old guard. He knows how to send messages like this. We always said, if anything ever happened, we'd use the rec field as a meeting point." Reese raised an eyebrow. "You planned for a civil war?" "I planned for betrayal," she said. "I was raised in a palace full of liars." He powered the ship slowly, careful not to trigger detection pulses. They moved between broken hulls and drifting engines until a small shuttle came into view. It was buried inside the corpse of a fallen warship, barely visible, but the beacon was real. As they approached, the shuttle door opened and a figure stepped out, tall, armored, and armed. Reese tightened his grip on the controls. Then the figure removed their helmet. A young Solari man with similar violet eyes stared back, blinking in disbelief. "Asari?" He called. She stepped forward in the airlock, her voice shaking. "Thalon?" They the two cousins embraced, long and silent. Then Thalon turned to Reese. "And you must be the human husband." Reese groaned. "Please don't start." But Thalon grinned. "We have a lot to talk about." Inside the hollowed wreck of the ancient warship, dim lanterns lit a narrow path through twisted metal corridors. Thalon led them with quick steps, glancing over his shoulder every few moments, as if expecting a ghost to follow. "I've been hiding here for 6 days, Thalon said quietly. "I knew they'd target me once they saw you escaped. The pale flame controls nearly everything now." Reese walked close behind, scanning the dark for any hidden movement. His hand never left the grip of his sidearm. Beside him, Asari followed, clutching the data crystal like it was her only lifeline. They're rewriting the narrative, Fallon continued, calling you a traitor, a defiler. They say you allowed the human to invade sacred ground. Some even call you a spy. Asari's jaw clenched. And you? What do they say about you? They call me dead, Fallon replied with a slight smirk. I prefer it that way. They reached a chamber deep within the ship. It had once been an engine room, but now it was a hidden base. Terminals were stacked against one wall, power cells humming beside them. A bedroll was laid out in the corner. Food wrappers scattered the floor. I intercepted fragments of command chatter, Fallon said. The Pale Flame's next move is bold. They're planning to frame the humans for a second violation. Something much worse than your unclothing, Reese frowned. What could be worse than a royal scandal? They're going to stage an assassination, Fallon said. They'll kill a Silari counselor in public and make it look like a human operative did it. A false flag to ensure total war. Asari's eyes widened. That will unite even the peaceful factions. It will. And any hope of diplomacy, Fallon nodded grimly. That's the plan. Reese moved toward the terminal. We have proof. The crystal. If we get it to the right people, it won't be enough, Fallon said. They control the media, the courts, even the priesthood. They'll say it's forged. The only way to stop this is to show the people directly. Reese narrowed his eyes. Broadcasted love, Fallon nodded. Exactly. The Palace Broadcast Hub on Solara Prime still controls the public wave. If we hijack it and transmit the real files, the orders, the plans, the names, the people will know. That's suicide, Reese said. It's also the only chance we've got, Fallon said. Reese paced the room. We have a half-broken scout ship, no backup, and they'll shoot us out of orbit the moment we get close to Solara. Asari stepped forward. Then we won't go as enemies. We'll go as husband and wife. Reese turned to her. What? They've declared our marriage illegal, but it still exists under the ancient law. If we arrive at the gates of the High Temple together, formally bonded, they can't deny us entry. Not without breaking their own sacred code. Fallon nodded slowly. She's right. The temple guard will be torn. Some still respect the old ways. They might let you through. Reese looked between them. Let me get this straight. You want me to fly back to the heart of enemy territory, walk into the most heavily guarded temple on your planet, and politely ask them to let us on air? Yes, Asari said calmly. Because if we don't, your people will be next. Reese exhaled, rubbing his forehead. We're all insane. But deep down, he knew they were right. Later, in the quiet moments before launch, Reese sat alone in the Sparrow's cockpit, staring out at the stars. He heard soft footsteps behind him. Asari stood in the doorway. I'm sorry, she said. For what? For dragging you into this? For giving you no choice. For forcing a bond when you had no say. Reese stood and turned to her. You think I care about that now? You think I'd leave you behind? She looked at him, eyes searching. Why? Wouldn't you? He didn't answer for a long time. Then, simply, because you're not just some alien, you're you. Silence hung between them. Then she stepped forward. When we get back, if we live through this, we'll have a real ceremony, Reese chuckled. Will I have to be naked too? Her eyes twinkled. Only if you want the blessing of the high priest. Reese groaned. Figures. Asari reached out, brushing her fingers across his cheek. Just don't die before the wedding. He caught her hand and squeezed it. Only if you promise not to run. I've run enough. They stood together, in that quiet space between death and hope. Then Reese turned to the controls. Let's crash a wedding. Asterisk Solara Prime loomed ahead, a glowing blue world streaked with gold clouds and long orbital towers. The Sparrow approached. Under a civilian clearance code Fallon had stolen from an old diplomatic relay. Reese sat stiff at the controls, his hands tight on the thrusters. They were flying into enemy territory with only one fragile advantage: tradition. Asari stood behind him, dressed now in a flowing ceremonial cloak of violet and silver. Her crest shimmered faintly, reactivated by Fallon using an emergency override. She looked every bit the royal princess. Fallon remained behind on the graveyard ship, monitoring long-range chatter. They couldn't risk all three being captured, remember. Asari said, placing her hand on Reese's shoulder. When we step into the temple courtyard, say nothing unless I speak to you first. We're not here to argue. We're here to use their own law against them. I'll try not to offend your entire religion, Reese muttered. She smiled, but her eyes were tense. It's not religion. It's control. The Sparrow docked at the outer gates of the High Temple, landing softly in the courtyard reserved for sacred arrivals. Guards stood in white and gold armor, their long halberds crossed in a gate before the main entrance. Their leader stepped forward, blinking. At the sight of Reese, "You dare bring a human to the sacred place?" Asari raised her voice, clear and steady. "By law of binding eyes, I come with my chosen. You will honor the right or be seen as traitors to the sacred code." The guards hesitated. Then, slowly, they lowered their weapons and stepped aside. Reese leaned toward her as they walked forward. "You sure that law still counts?" "Only one way to find out." Inside, the temple was massive domes carved from pure stone, lit by natural light that shone through crystal ceilings. Rows of priests turned as they entered, murmuring in shock. Several backed away. Others reached for communication beads. Asari walked with her chin high. "I demand access to the voice hall. We wish to declare our bond and speak our truth." One priest finally found his voice. "Your truth is false. You fled your people. You dishonored your family." "No," she said. "I honored the truth. And I brought the evidence." She raised the crystal drive. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Within moments, the high priestess arrived, an elder Silari woman with flowing white hair and glowing rings along her arms. Her eyes studied Reese with pure disdain. "You bring a human into our most sacred heart," she said coldly. "I bring my husband," Asari answered. "And I bring proof that the pale flame has lied to you. You are not recognized anymore. Your title was stripped by liars." Asari cut in. "But the people still remember. Let them hear what I've found." The high priestess hesitated. The room grew silent. Then she turned. "The hall will be opened." "For 1 hour," Asari bowed. "That is all we ask." Inside the voice hall, massive screens lined the walls. Asari inserted the crystal, and the data began to flow. Names, orders, secret meetings, footage, communications between pale flame generals and dark market dealers. Plans for the assassination to be blamed on humans. Plans for genocide masked as defense. Asari stood before the priests and the gathered watchers. "You were told I was corrupted, that I was weak, but I found the truth. I risked my life to escape. And now I bring the truth home, not just for me, but for all Silari." Reese stood beside her, silent, his presence alone a message. A human who had not destroyed her. A human who stood by her side. Then the screens cut, and alarms wailed. A squad of armored figures stormed in pale flame enforcers. Their leader shouted, "Seize her! Kill the human!" The temple guards hesitated, but just for a second. That was all Reese needed. He dove, knocking Asari down just as a plasma bolt scorched the air where she'd stood. He drew his sidearm. and fired once, striking the lead attacker in the shoulder. The temple guards reacted. Some turned on the pale flame. Others hesitated, unsure. "Protect the princess." A young guard shouted, "She speaks truth." Chaos broke out. Rhys pulled Asari to her feet. "We've got to move." But Asari didn't run. She turned back to the hall's ancient comms pillar, activated the emergency override, and broadcast. The files again, this time across the planetary public network. Every home, every screen. Every Solari would now see. More guards arrived, but this time, they weren't aiming at Rhys. They surrounded the pale flame attackers. The High Priestess raised her hand. "Enough! I see the truth with my own eyes. The old ways have been used to blind us. No more." Rhys stood beside Asari, out of breath, weapon still raised. Asari whispered, "We did it." Rhys looked at her and smiled. "Yeah, we really did." But it wasn't over yet, because the pale flame wasn't going to fall without a final strike. Smoke still hung in the temple air as Rhys helped Asari down the main stairway, his blaster still warm in his hand. The temple bells rang not for prayer, but to signal upheaval. Outside, citizens had already begun to gather, staring at their screens, watching the raw evidence broadcast from the voice hall. Everything had changed in less than an hour. Inside the temple, guards detained the surviving pale flame attackers. Some of the elder priests sat in stunned silence. Others wept, realizing they had believed lies for years. Rhys and Asari were led to a private chamber near the sanctuary, guarded on both sides. "You've started something that can't be undone," said the High Priestess as she entered. "The people will rise. The pale flame's grip is breaking. They'll strike back," Asari said quietly. "They won't go quietly. They won't get the chance," said Fallon as he stepped into the room. Rhys blinked. "How?" "I landed during the confusion. The city's perimeter is full of rebels and neutral officers who saw your broadcast. You lit the fire. We're just carrying it forward." Asari smiled. "Then it's time to end this." Suddenly, the floor trembled beneath them. Everyone froze. Another tremor. Then a deep, vibrating sound like thunder crashing inside stone walls. Rhys ran to the window. A massive pale flame warship hovered above the Capitol spire, glowing with red heat. Its cannons pointed not at enemy soldiers but at the temple. "They're going to destroy the evidence," he said. "They're going to bury it all in fire." Asari stepped beside him. "They'd wipe out the entire temple, their own history just to keep power." Rhys looked to her. "We need to evacuate." "No," she said. "We need to stop them." Fallon tapped his comm. "I know someone in the palace defense grid, a loyalist. If I can reach him." But Asari was already moving. She rushed toward the sacred core, a sealed platform used only for royal declarations. "What are you doing?" Rhys called after her. "If I die today, I die telling the truth," she said. "But I won't run." The High Priestess looked at her, then slowly followed. "Then I will speak with you." Rhys followed them both, unsure what the plan was, but unwilling to leave her side. The core activated, streaming her live to every screen on the planet again. "This is Princess Asari of the House of Light," she began, standing tall before the temple's central pillar. "To those who still believe in justice, know this. The pale flame has betrayed our people. They now bring war to silence truth." She pointed up at the sky. "If they fire on this sacred place, it means they have no respect for our ancestors, no respect for life. But I will not kneel. I will not be silent." Rhys stood beside her. "And neither will I." The red glow in the sky pulsed brighter. The massive ship charged its main cannon. The people in the city looked up. Across Solara Prime, millions watched, breath held. Then, nothing. The cannon powered down. The ship began to drift. Fallon's voice buzzed through. There come. Got through. One of the bridge officers turned. The crew refused the order. The captain's been arrested. The pale flame just lost their last card. Asari collapsed slightly, relief washing through her. Rhys caught her before she fell. Cheers! Erupted outside the temple. Crowds flooded the streets, holding banners not of war but of peace. Soldiers began to switch sides. Pale flame flags were torn down, burned, replaced with ancient symbols of unity. Later that night, beneath a sky finally quiet, Rhys sat beside Asari in the inner garden of the temple. Lanterns floated in the reflection pool nearby. The air smelled of blossoms and dust. Are we still married? He asked quietly. She laughed softly. By law, yes. By choice? She turned to him. That's your decision. Rhys looked at her. I didn't plan any of this, he said. But if I had the choice again, I'd still open that chamber door. She reached for his hand. Then let's make it real. They stood before a small gathering. Fallon, the high priestess, and a few rebel allies. No politics, no war. Just a quiet vow beneath the moonlight. A union that had started by accident. But survived by choice. And from that strange beginning, a new future for both their worlds was born together.